In the heart of a small, quiet town, there was a mansion that everyone feared. It belonged to a billionaire named Mr. Nolan. His wealth was famous and his power was known far and wide, but it was not money that made people nervous. It was the dog he kept. The dog was huge, with black fur that gleamed under the sun, and eyes that seemed to look straight into a person's soul. Its name was Brutus, and no one had ever been able to control him. Brutus was not only large and strong, but he was also fiercely protective. People said that even trained professionals had tried to tame him and had failed. They had left the mansion with scratches and bruises, their confidence shattered. Brutus did not attack without reason, but he did not allow anyone to approach either. Guards often stayed at a safe distance, whispering that even they felt uneasy in his presence. One sunny morning, Mr. Nolan decided to make a public announcement. The town gathered in the square to hear the news. Children peeked from behind market stalls and adults stopped their work to listen. Mr. Nolan's voice rang out, steady and confident. "I am offering $1 million to anyone who can tame Brutus," he declared. The crowd gasped. $1 million was more money than most people in the town could ever dream of in their lifetime. Immediately, whispers filled the square. Who could dare attempt such a challenge? Many thought it was impossible. The bravest men and women of the town considered trying, but fear stopped them. They remembered the stories of failed attempts, of scratches and bites, of men who had left in humiliation. Yet the promise of $1 million tempted many. Among the crowd was a young girl named Mia. She was small and thin, with dark hair tied back in a loose braid. Mia had no home and no family to care for her. She wandered the streets, helping people with small chores in exchange for food. She lived a life of hardship, but she had a kind heart. Animals often came to her, sensing her gentle spirit. Birds would land near her. Stray cats would curl up in her lap, and even stray dogs followed her quietly. When Mia heard Mr. Nolan's announcement, she felt something stir inside her. She did not care much about money, though it would help her greatly. What mattered was Brutus. She felt a strange connection to the dog. Something inside her told her that Brutus was not evil, only hurt. He needed help, and she might be the only one who could give it. Mia walked home slowly, thinking about the challenge. She had never met Brutus, but she already felt a plan forming in her mind. She would approach him not with force or commands, but with patience and kindness. She had tamed many wild and frightened animals in her life, and she trusted her instincts. Still, she knew it would not be easy. Brutus was enormous, and his reputation was terrifying. The next morning, Mia made her way to the mansion. The streets were quiet, and the sun had just risen, casting long shadows across the town. She walked lightly, avoiding the guards at the entrance. When she reached the garden, she saw Brutus. He was pacing back and forth, his muscles tense, his eyes sharp. He noticed Mia immediately and growled, a low and deep sound that sent shivers down her spine. Mia stopped a few feet away and lowered herself to the ground. She smiled gently. "Hello, big guy," she said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to be your friend." Brutus froze and stared. His ears twitched and his tail did not move. He was curious but cautious. Many people had approached him with fear, with loud voices and harsh commands. Mia was different. She did not wave her hands, she did not shout, and she did not make sudden movements. Hours passed. Mia stayed on the ground, speaking in a calm voice, telling Brutus about small things in her life. She told him how she sometimes slept under the stars, how she helped stray dogs and cats, and how she dreamed of a place where all animals could feel safe. Brutus did not growl or attack. Instead, he sat at a distance, watching her carefully. By the evening, Brutus slowly approached Mia. First, he sniffed her hand. Then he sat down beside her. It was the first time he had let anyone come so close without fear or aggression. Mia reached out slowly and stroked his fur. Brutus flinched slightly but did not move away. Mia smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. She knew that this was the beginning of a bond that could change both of their lives. News of Mia's attempt spread quickly. People whispered that the homeless girl was trying to tame the impossible dog. Many doubted she would succeed. Some laughed at the idea, saying she was too small and weak to control a dog like Brutus. Others were curious, wondering if the stories about Brutus could be true. Mia did not pay attention to the whispers. She returned to the mansion every day, bringing small treats she could afford and talking to Brutus. She noticed small things about him that others had missed. He liked the sound of her voice, the slow movement of her hands, and the gentle tone of her words. He was still cautious, but he was beginning to trust her in ways he had never trusted anyone else. Brutus had been mistreated by previous owners. They had tried to control him with fear, using harsh commands and punishment. This had made him angry and fearful. Mia understood this. She spoke softly to him, saying, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I will never hurt you. I will stay with you." Mia's patience began to pay off. Brutus started to follow her around the garden, sniffing the ground near her and wagging his tail slightly. He did not bark at her. He did not snap. He was learning that someone could care for him without fear or force. Mr. Nolan began to notice the changes. From his balcony, he watched Mia with Brutus. He was a man used to control and power, but he could not understand how this young girl was succeeding where trained professionals had failed. He observed her daily, intrigued by her courage and her unusual connection with the dog. Mia did not notice Mr. Nolan. She was focused entirely on Brutus. She learned his likes and dislikes. She found that he enjoyed the smell of fresh flowers and the sound of wind through the trees. She discovered that he responded positively to gentle words and slow movements. Most importantly, she realized that Brutus wanted trust and friendship more than anything else. Days turned into weeks. Mia's bond with Brutus grew stronger. She began to notice small gestures that showed his trust. He would lie down beside her, allowing her to pet him freely. He would follow her when she moved, staying close but never aggressive. He even began to play small games, chasing after sticks she threw lightly or nudging her hand with his nose. Mia felt a sense of purpose she had never known. She was not trying to prove herself for money. She was trying to help a lonely and frightened creature feel safe. She felt joy in Brutus's small victories and shared his moments of happiness. The town continued to watch in surprise as the homeless girl tamed the impossible dog with patience and love. By the end of the first month, Mia had achieved something no one else had. Brutus had begun to trust her completely. He was still cautious around others, but with Mia he was gentle and calm. The challenge of $1 million no longer seemed important. Mia had discovered something far more valuable: the power of kindness and the strength of patience. The story of Mia and Brutus was just beginning, but already it was clear that their bond would change not only their lives, but also the way the town viewed courage, love, and trust. Brutus, the vicious dog, had found a friend, and Mia, the homeless girl, had found purpose. Together they would face challenges, surprises, and adventures that no one could imagine, and their story would inspire everyone who witnessed it. Mia looked at Brutus and whispered, "We will face the world together, big guy. I promise." Brutus leaned his head on her shoulder, a silent agreement that he trusted her completely. The mansion, once a place of fear, began to feel lighter. Something new was growing there: hope, friendship, and a bond stronger than fear. The first step in this incredible journey had been taken, and the entire town waited in quiet anticipation to see what would happen next. The morning sun shone brightly over the town, lighting the streets and the gardens around Mr. Nolan's mansion. Mia woke up early as usual, carrying a small bag with a few simple items. Some pieces of bread she had saved from the day before, a small blanket, and a tiny rope toy she had found for Brutus. She moved quietly, not wanting to disturb anyone, yet her heart was full of excitement. Today she would spend more time with Brutus and learn even more about him. When Mia arrived at the mansion, she noticed Brutus in the garden, pacing back and forth. His muscles were tense and his eyes followed every movement in the area. Today, however, something had changed. Brutus did not bark when Mia appeared. Instead, he stopped, tilted his head, and observed her calmly. He seemed to recognize her presence. Mia smiled and walked slowly toward him. She spoke softly. "Good morning, Brutus. Did you sleep well?" Her voice was gentle, carrying no command or demand. She sat on the grass, crossed her legs, and looked at him with patience. Brutus sat a few feet away watching her, his tail moving slightly, a sign Mia had learned meant he was curious but cautious. She took out the small rope toy and tossed it lightly toward him. Brutus sniffed it, then nudged it back toward her. This was a small victory. Mia clapped her hands softly, praising him. "Good job, Brutus. You are learning to play without fear." She had discovered that positive reinforcement worked far better with him than punishment or harsh commands. As the morning passed, Mia fed Brutus small pieces of bread, watching carefully to ensure he did not become aggressive. She noticed that he ate slowly when he felt unsure, and quickly when he felt safe. Today he ate without hesitation. Mia patted him gently, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was not only that she was helping Brutus, it was that she was forming a true connection with him. While she cared for Brutus, Mia observed the garden closely. She realized that it was designed for appearances, not comfort. There were few areas where Brutus could rest comfortably, and most of the garden had sharp bushes and hard stones. Mia decided that she could help improve the space for him. If Brutus had a comfortable and safe environment, it might make him more trusting. She began gathering fallen leaves, arranging soft areas for Brutus to lie down. She moved some stones aside and found a small patch of soft grass where he could rest. Brutus watched silently, tilting his head as Mia worked. For the first time, he seemed interested in her actions beyond mere curiosity. He even lay down on the soft grass, letting Mia adjust it around him. Later that day, a few townspeople gathered outside the mansion to watch. They whispered to each other about Mia's courage. No one could understand how a homeless girl could approach Brutus, a dog that even professional trainers had feared. Some shook their heads in disbelief while others smiled, secretly rooting for her. Mia ignored the crowd. She focused entirely on Brutus. She remembered the stories of how he had been treated poorly by previous owners. Harsh words and punishment had made him defensive and fearful. Mia decided that she would be the first person to show him true kindness. She spoke softly to him, telling him about her life, about her small joys and worries. Her stories were simple, yet they carried sincerity, and Brutus seemed to respond. By midday, Mia noticed a small change. Brutus, who had always kept a distance of several feet, now came closer to her. He lowered his head slightly and let her touch his ears. Mia gently stroked him, careful not to make sudden movements. Brutus did not flinch or snap. This small gesture filled Mia with hope. She whispered, "We are getting there, big guy. You are learning to trust." Mia spent the afternoon walking with Brutus around the garden. She let him explore at his own pace, keeping herself calm and quiet. Sometimes he would stop and look back at her, as if checking if she was still near. She encouraged him with soft words and a gentle hand on his back. Slowly, she began to see him relax. His tail wagged slightly and he even barked once in play. It was not a loud, scary bark, but a playful one. Mr. Nolan noticed the changes from his balcony. He had watched Mia every day, curious about her unusual success. Today he was amazed. Brutus, the dog who had terrified everyone, was showing signs of trust and playfulness. Mr. Nolan had never seen a bond like this before. He wondered silently how a young girl with no money and no status could achieve what he and his trainers could not. Mia, unaware of Mr. Nolan's observation, continued her work. She found a quiet spot under a tree and sat down, letting Brutus lie beside her. She spoke softly, telling him about the stars she had seen at night, about the stray dogs she had helped, and about the kindness she hoped to see in the world. Brutus rested his head on her lap, a sign of trust that no one had seen before. As the evening approached, Mia packed her few belongings to leave. Brutus followed her to the gate, watching as she walked away. He did not growl or bark at the approaching guards. Instead, he stayed calm, keeping his eyes on Mia. She turned and waved to him, whispering, "Tomorrow we will do more. I promise." Brutus's tail wagged slightly, a quiet response to her words. On her way back through the town, Mia thought about the day. She felt proud, not because of the challenge or the money, but because she had earned a friend. Brutus had trusted her when no one else could. She felt hope growing in her heart. She knew the journey was only beginning, but this first connection was the most important step. The next morning, Mia returned with small treats and a fresh blanket for Brutus. She had saved some bread and even brought a few flowers to make the garden more pleasant. Brutus watched her approach and barked softly, not aggressively but as a greeting. Mia laughed. "Good morning, Brutus. Did you miss me?" She knelt on the ground, letting him come closer. They spent the morning walking, playing, and resting together. Brutus began to respond to her gestures more quickly. He learned simple cues like sitting or staying, though Mia never used harsh commands. Instead, she showed him, guided him, and waited patiently. Every time Brutus obeyed or followed her gently, she praised him with a smile and a soft touch. The townspeople continued to watch in amazement. Some approached cautiously, whispering to each other about Mia's courage. A few children tried to imitate her care with their own pets, learning that kindness and patience could work better than fear. The story of Mia and Brutus began to spread far beyond the mansion. By the end of the second week, Brutus had begun to greet Mia without hesitation. He would wag his tail, nuzzle her hand, and follow her movements closely. He no longer barked at the garden gates or the visitors who arrived at a distance. Mia felt a deep sense of pride. She had done what no one else could. She had reached Brutus's heart and he had reached hers. That evening, Mia sat quietly beside him, brushing his fur gently. Brutus leaned against her, calm and relaxed. She whispered, "We are just getting started, big guy. Tomorrow we will do even more, I promise." Brutus rested his head on her shoulder, a silent agreement that he trusted her completely. As the sun set behind the mansion, Mia looked around the garden. She had created a space of trust, safety, and comfort for Brutus. He had learned to play, rest, and respond to kindness. She had learned patience, courage, and the power of understanding another heart. Together, they were building something remarkable, and the entire town was beginning to notice. The first real bond had been formed. Brutus, the fierce dog who had terrified everyone, had found a friend. Mia, the homeless girl who had little in her life, had found purpose. Their journey was only beginning, and both of them knew that challenges would come, but they were ready to face them together. Mia stood up, brushed her hands on her dress, and smiled at Brutus. "Tomorrow we will learn more. Together we can do anything." Brutus barked softly in response, his eyes full of trust and loyalty. The mansion, once a place of fear, was slowly becoming a place of hope, friendship, and courage. The townspeople would tell stories about this day for years. They would remember how a small girl had changed the heart of a fierce dog with patience, love, and understanding. And Mia knew deep inside that this was just the beginning of an incredible adventure. The sun rose over the town, painting the streets in gold and orange. Mia woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was different. She had spent weeks gaining Brutus's trust, but now she wanted to see how far their connection could go. She had noticed small signs of courage in him, and she wanted to test his reactions carefully. Mia gathered a few items in her small bag. She had a rope toy, some treats, a soft blanket, and a few flowers to make Brutus's garden more comfortable. She also carried a small mirror she had found in the market. It was a simple thing, but Mia thought it could be useful to show Brutus his reflection, to see how he reacted to his own image. She believed understanding oneself could help Brutus gain confidence. When she arrived at the mansion, Brutus was already waiting. He paced a little but stopped when he saw Mia. His tail wagged slightly. Today he did not growl or bark as she approached. Mia smiled and knelt on the ground. "Good morning, Brutus. Are you ready for our day?" she asked softly. Brutus sniffed her hand and nudged her gently. Mia began with small exercises. She guided Brutus to sit and stay using calm gestures and gentle words. He followed without hesitation, showing that he trusted her completely. Then she placed the mirror on the ground a few feet away. Brutus approached slowly, sniffing it. When he saw his reflection, he stiffened for a moment, but then tilted his head curiously. He sniffed again and moved closer. Mia whispered, "See, big guy? That's you. You are strong and brave." Brutus touched the mirror lightly with his paw and stepped back. Mia praised him softly. She noticed that he did not react with aggression. Instead, he seemed curious and cautious. This small exercise showed her that Brutus was learning to face unknown situations without fear. Mia felt proud. She had helped him discover a part of himself he had never known. Next, Mia decided to introduce a small challenge. She placed a few objects in the garden, a small wooden box, a pile of leaves, and a soft cloth. Brutus walked around them slowly, sniffing each one. Mia encouraged him to step on the box and explore it. At first, Brutus hesitated, but Mia stayed calm, guiding him with her hands and words. After a few moments, Brutus stepped onto the box, then jumped off carefully. Mia clapped softly, praising him. "Good job, Brutus. You are learning so fast." As the day went on, Mia noticed something remarkable. Brutus was beginning to think for himself. He made small choices, exploring the garden without fear, approaching new objects with curiosity, and even playing with the rope toy by himself. Mia realized that trust was not just about obedience. It was about confidence, understanding, and freedom. She felt a deeper connection with him than ever before. By midday, a few townspeople had gathered outside the mansion to watch. they whispered excitedly. No one had ever seen Brutus act so calmly around anyone, let alone a young girl. Some shook their heads in disbelief. How can a homeless girl tame such a fierce dog? They asked each other. Others smiled quietly, secretly admiring Mia's courage and patience. Mia ignored the crowd. She was focused entirely on Brutus. She took out the soft blanket and placed it under a tree where he could rest. Brutus lay down and closed his eyes for a few moments. Mia sat beside him, brushing his fur gently. She spoke softly about the stars, the wind, and the small joys she had seen in life. Brutus leaned into her, showing complete trust. After resting, Mia decided to take Brutus on a short walk outside the garden. She wanted to see how he would react to new surroundings and noises. She opened the gate slowly and Brutus followed her calmly. They walked down the driveway and into a quiet street. Birds chirped and the wind rustled the trees. Brutus stopped a few times, sniffing the ground and observing his surroundings, but he stayed close to Mia. Suddenly, a small dog appeared from a nearby yard, barking loudly. Brutus stiffened and growled softly. Mia knelt down and held out her hand. "It's okay, Brutus. You are safe with me." Brutus looked at her and then at the small dog. He relaxed slightly, lowering his growl. Mia guided him gently away, showing him that he could remain calm even when others were aggressive. The walk continued, and Mia noticed more changes in Brutus. He no longer jumped or barked at strangers from a distance. He walked confidently, staying near her side. This was a remarkable transformation. She realized that patience, consistency, and gentle guidance had taught him something no amount of force or training could. Brutus had learned to trust, and in that trust he had found courage. When they returned to the mansion, Mia decided to play a new game. She hid treats in different parts of the garden and encouraged Brutus to find them. Brutus sniffed carefully, moving from one spot to another. When he found a treat, he nudged it toward Mia and wagged his tail. Mia laughed and praised him. "You are clever, Brutus. You can find anything if you focus." As the afternoon passed, Mia noticed another important change. Brutus began to respond to her voice without hesitation. She called his name softly and he came immediately. She asked him to sit and he obeyed. She had never used harsh commands or punishment, yet he listened with complete attention. Mia felt a sense of pride she had never experienced before. She had built a connection based on respect, trust, and love. Meanwhile, Mr. Nolan watched from his balcony. He could not hide his surprise. Brutus, the dog that had terrified everyone, was following Mia calmly, responding to her gestures and even playing gently. Mr. Nolan realized that he had never seen a bond like this. He wondered silently about Mia's courage and skill. How could someone with no formal training accomplish what his best trainers could not? Mia, unaware of Mr. Nolan's thoughts, continued to spend the day with Brutus. She led him to the garden pond and let him watch the water. Brutus tilted his head, curious about the ripples and reflections. Mia laughed softly. "It is beautiful, isn't it, big guy? You can enjoy it safely." Brutus sat quietly, observing, his tail wagging lightly. As evening approached, Mia guided Brutus back to the mansion. She gave him the soft blanket and some treats before leaving. Brutus followed her to the gate as if he knew she would return. Mia knelt down and whispered, "Tomorrow we will have another adventure. You are learning so much and I am proud of you." Brutus nudged her hand with his nose, a quiet acknowledgement of his trust. On her way home, Mia reflected on the day. She realized that the journey was not about money. It was about understanding, patience, and friendship. Brutus had taught her as much as she had taught him. She had learned to observe carefully, act gently, and respect his feelings. She felt hope growing inside her, a feeling she had never known in her life of hardship. That night, Mia slept under the stars, thinking about the bond she had formed with Brutus. She dreamed of the days ahead, of the challenges they would face together, and of the adventures they would share. She knew that the town would watch closely, that some would doubt her, and that others would admire her courage. But she also knew that nothing mattered more than the trust she had earned from Brutus. The next morning, Mia returned to the mansion, ready for a new day of connection. She carried more treats, a small ball, and a notebook she had found to record Brutus's progress. She wanted to understand him better, to learn how to communicate with him and guide him through challenges. Brutus greeted her calmly, tail wagging, showing that he was ready to learn and play once again. Mia's determination, patience, and kindness had begun to create something remarkable. The once feared dog was now playful, attentive, and curious. The town watched in astonishment as the bond between the homeless girl and the billionaire's dog grew stronger each day. Brutus, who had once been seen as dangerous and untouchable, was becoming gentle, loyal, and brave, all because of Mia's care. By the end of Part 3, the first true test of trust had begun. Brutus had shown that he could face new situations without fear, respond to Mia's guidance, and play without aggression. Mia had proven that love, patience, and understanding could achieve what force and money never could. Together, they were building a bond that would inspire the entire town, and perhaps even change the way people thought about courage, kindness, and trust. Mia knelt beside Brutus under the setting sun, brushing his fur and smiling. "We are ready for anything, big guy. We will face it together," she whispered. Brutus leaned into her hand, calm, loyal, and trusting, ready for the adventures yet to come. The sun shone brightly over the town, casting warm light over streets, shops, and the mansion that everyone feared. Today was different from other days. Mr. Nolan had decided it was time for a public test. The townspeople had gathered, curious and excited. Everyone wanted to see if Brutus, the fierce dog, could truly be tamed by Mia, the young homeless girl who had gained his trust. The mansion garden had been prepared for the event. Tables, chairs, and small fences created a safe area where Brutus could move freely. Volunteers stood at a distance, unsure of what would happen. Many remembered the stories of men who had tried to control Brutus and failed. They whispered to each other, unsure whether Mia could succeed where they could not. Mia arrived early in the morning, carrying a small bag with treats, a soft blanket, and her notebook. She wore a calm smile, her heart steady despite the crowd. Brutus was already in the garden, pacing quietly. When he saw Mia, he stopped and wagged his tail lightly. He seemed to know that she would guide him through the test. Mia knelt on the ground, speaking softly to Brutus. "It's okay, big guy. You are safe. We can do this together." Brutus walked closer, sniffed her hand, and leaned slightly against her. Mia felt warmth spread through her chest. She had trained him with patience, love, and understanding, and now it was time to show the town what they had achieved. The first part of the test was simple. Volunteers approached Brutus, holding objects and making noises. Normally, the dog would have barked, lunged, or run aggressively. Today, he remained calm. He watched the volunteers, but he stayed close to Mia, his eyes focused on her. Mia spoke softly. "Good boy, Brutus." "You are brave," the crowd gasped. No one had expected Brutus to stay calm. Next, Mia led Brutus through a small obstacle course. She guided him carefully, encouraging him to jump over low barriers and step onto soft platforms. Brutus followed her instructions without hesitation. He paused only to look at Mia for reassurance. Each successful step earned him gentle praise and small treats. The crowd watched in awe as the once feared dog moved with confidence and control. Some townspeople tried to challenge Brutus with louder noises and unexpected movements. Mia remained calm. She knelt and spoke softly, keeping her voice steady. Brutus responded immediately, staying close and ignoring distractions. The volunteers were amazed. They had never seen such obedience and calmness in a dog so large and strong. Mr. Nolan observed from the balcony. He had expected a small demonstration, but he was astonished. The dog that had terrified everyone was now calm, obedient, and playful. Mia's method of patience, understanding, and trust was more powerful than any professional training or command. He felt respect growing inside him for the young girl who had achieved the impossible. The final part of the test was the most challenging. Mia asked volunteers to approach Brutus one by one, some holding objects, others wearing hats and masks. Normally, Brutus would have barked or lunged at each person. Today, he walked beside Mia calmly, sniffing the strangers without aggression. He even allowed a small child to approach, sniffing the child's hand before stepping back quietly. The crowd erupted into applause. People who had doubted Mia's abilities could not believe what they were witnessing. They whispered excitedly to each other, pointing at Brutus and Mia. "She did it," one man said. "She actually tamed him." Children clapped and cheered, inspired by Mia's courage and Brutus's transformation. Mia knelt beside Brutus, brushing his fur and speaking softly. "You did it, big guy. You stayed brave and calm. I am proud of you." Brutus leaned into her hand, wagging his tail, enjoying the praise. It was clear that their bond had grown stronger than anyone could have imagined. After the test, Mr. Nolan walked down to the garden. He approached Mia and Brutus carefully, not wanting to startle the dog. "Mia," he said, his voice full of respect, "I cannot believe what I have seen. You have done what no one else could. You have earned my admiration and trust." Mia smiled quietly, feeling proud but humble. Brutus barked softly, nudging Mia's hand. Mia laughed and patted him gently. "We did it together, Brutus. We worked as a team." Mr. Nolan watched silently, amazed at the transformation. He realized that Mia had taught Brutus something no one else could. She had shown him trust, kindness, and understanding. In return, Brutus had shown her loyalty, courage, and love. The townspeople continued to watch, inspired by the event. They had expected a challenge, perhaps even failure, but what they witnessed was a miracle of patience and connection. Mia had shown them that force and money were not always the solution. Sometimes kindness and understanding could achieve what seemed impossible. Later in the afternoon, Mia decided to take Brutus for a short walk around the garden. She wanted to reinforce the trust and ensure he felt confident in new situations. Brutus walked beside her calmly, sniffing the flowers and observing the surroundings. He no longer showed fear or aggression. Every step he took was a sign of his growth and his bond with Mia. As they walked, Mia noticed small details about Brutus's behavior. He responded to her voice quickly, followed her gestures without hesitation, and even initiated playful actions, such as nudging her hand or chasing a falling leaf. Mia realized that Brutus was no longer simply obeying her. He was thinking, exploring, and enjoying life with confidence. Mr. Nolan approached Mia after the walk. He handed her a small bag of treats as a reward, though she did not need it. "Mia," he said, "you have shown me that true skill is not in control but in understanding. You have earned more than just money. You have earned respect and trust." Mia smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. She knew that Brutus's transformation was the real reward. That evening, Mia spent time brushing Brutus's fur and setting up a comfortable spot for him in the garden. She spoke softly about the day, praising him for his bravery and calmness. Brutus leaned into her hand, relaxed and happy. Mia knew that their journey was far from over, but she also knew that they had passed the first true test. The townspeople left the mansion with stories to tell. Children ran home to tell their families about the girl who had tamed the impossible dog. Adults whispered about the courage and patience that Mia had shown. Everyone in the town would remember this day, not only because of the dog, but because of the lesson it taught. Kindness, understanding, and trust can achieve what fear and force cannot. As the sun set behind the mansion, Mia knelt beside Brutus under a tree. She whispered softly, "Tomorrow we will do more. We will explore, play, and learn together. I am proud of you, big guy." Brutus nudged her hand, his eyes full of trust and loyalty. For the first time, the mansion felt different. It was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of friendship, hope, and courage. Mia looked around at the quiet garden, filled with flowers, soft grass, and the gentle rustle of leaves. She realized that the public test had not only changed Brutus, but had also changed the town. People began to see that true courage was not in power or money, but in patience, understanding, and the ability to care for others. Brutus rested his head on Mia's lap, calm and content. He had faced strangers, new objects, and noises without fear. He had listened, obeyed, and even played gently. Mia knew that he had grown stronger, braver, and more confident. She also knew that their bond was unbreakable, built on trust, love, and mutual respect. As night fell, Mia packed her small bag and prepared to leave. She looked at Brutus and whispered, "We will have more adventures, big guy. You are ready for anything now." Brutus barked softly in agreement, tail wagging. Together they had faced the public test and succeeded. They had proven that patience, kindness, and trust could overcome fear and aggression. That night Mia slept under the stars, dreaming of the adventures that awaited her and Brutus. She felt a sense of pride and hope she had never known. Brutus, the once feared dog, had become gentle, brave, and loyal. Mia, the homeless girl, had found purpose, courage, and a friend for life. The public test was over, but their journey was only beginning. Together they would face new challenges, explore new places, and show the town that even the fiercest hearts could be tamed with patience, love, and understanding. The morning sun rose over the town with a soft golden glow. Mia woke early, carrying her small bag filled with treats, a blanket, and a few toys for Brutus. Today was special. The public test had proven Brutus's transformation, but now it was time for Mr. Nolan to honor his promise. Mia did not think about the money. She cared more about Brutus and the bond they had built. When Mia arrived at the mansion, Brutus was waiting patiently in the garden. He wagged his tail as she approached, his large body moving with calm energy. The mansion felt different now. The garden, once a place of fear, was now a space filled with warmth, friendship, and trust. Mia smiled and knelt beside Brutus. "Good morning, big guy. Today we will finish what we started," she whispered softly. Mr. Nolan stepped into the garden, dressed in a sharp suit but smiling warmly. He had watched Mia and Brutus for weeks and was impressed by the transformation he had witnessed. He approached Mia with respect in his eyes. "Mia," he said, "you have done the impossible. You have tamed Brutus with patience, love, and understanding. You have proven that courage is not always measured by strength or money, but by heart." Mia smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. She knelt beside Brutus, brushing his fur gently. Brutus leaned into her hand, his trust and loyalty clear in his eyes. Mia realized that the bond they had built was stronger than anything money could provide. Still, Mr. Nolan stepped forward with a small envelope in his hand. "This is for you," he said. "As promised, the reward is yours. $1 million for taming Brutus." Mia accepted the envelope but shook her head. "Thank you, sir, but I do not need all of it. Brutus and I already have something more valuable than money. I only need a small portion to build a home for myself and to care for other animals in need." Mr. Nolan's eyes widened in surprise. He admired her humility. "Very well," he said. "Use it as you see fit. You have earned every bit of it." After the formalities, Mia spent the morning with Brutus in the garden. She brought out his favorite rope toy and threw it lightly. Brutus chased after it eagerly, barking playfully. He ran around the garden full of energy and joy, no longer aggressive or fearful. Mia laughed, her heart full of happiness. She had watched him grow from a frightened and angry dog into a loyal and playful companion. Later, Mia walked around the garden, placing flowers and soft blankets in different corners for Brutus. She wanted him to feel comfort and safety in every part of the space. Brutus followed her, sniffing the flowers and settling on the blankets she had arranged. The mansion, once a place of fear and distance, had transformed into a home filled with warmth and care. The townspeople had gathered outside the mansion, curious to see the outcome. They whispered among themselves, amazed at Mia's courage and the change in Brutus. Children pointed excitedly at the playful dog and the young girl who had tamed him. Adults nodded in respect, realizing that Mia had done something remarkable. She had shown that patience, understanding, and kindness could achieve what force and fear never could. Mia took a moment to speak to the crowd. She knelt beside Brutus, holding his large paw in her hands. "This is Brutus," she said softly. "He was once afraid and angry because of the way he was treated. But with patience, love, and trust, he has learned to be gentle and brave. Anyone can make a difference if they care and are willing to try." The crowd clapped and cheered, inspired by her words and actions. After the applause, Mr. Nolan approached Mia again. "You have not only tamed Brutus, but you have also changed the town's view on courage and kindness," he said. "I have never seen such a bond between a human and an animal. You have my respect and gratitude." Mia smiled, feeling proud but humble. "Thank you, sir. Brutus and I have learned from each other. That is the greatest reward." That afternoon, Mia used part of her reward to secure a small home in the town. It was simple, with a small yard and enough space for Brutus to run freely. She also used some of the money to help other stray animals, buying food, blankets, and toys. She felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. Her life, once filled with uncertainty, now had meaning, love, and companionship. Brutus quickly adjusted to the new home. He explored every corner, sniffing the grass, rolling on the blankets, and discovering the smells of the yard. Mia watched him with a smile, feeling joy in every movement he made. He was no longer just a dog. He was her companion, her friend, and her family. Days turned into weeks, and Mia continued to care for Brutus and the other animals. She trained them gently, using the same patience and kindness that had worked with Brutus. The town began to notice her efforts. People brought stray animals to her for help, and she gladly assisted. Her home became a place of refuge, love, and care for animals in need. Brutus became a symbol of hope and transformation. Children loved to visit him, learning about trust, patience, and friendship. Adults admired the change in him and the courage Mia had shown. The mansion, once a place of fear, now represented understanding and care. Mia had shown everyone that even the fiercest hearts could change with love and patience. One evening, Mia sat beside Brutus in the garden, brushing his fur and speaking softly. "We have come a long way, big guy. From the streets to this home, from fear to trust, we have done it together." Brutus leaned into her hand, his eyes full of loyalty and happiness. Mia realized that the greatest reward was not the money, but the bond they shared and the lives they had touched. Mr. Nolan visited them that evening, bringing a small basket of treats for Brutus. "You have done something extraordinary, Mia," he said. "Not just for Brutus, but for everyone who has witnessed your courage and kindness. You have shown the world that love and understanding are stronger than fear and force." Mia smiled and thanked him, feeling proud and fulfilled. As the sun set behind the house, casting warm colors across the yard, Mia looked at Brutus and whispered, "We are ready for anything, big guy. Together we can face the world." Brutus barked softly, tail wagging, his eyes shining with trust and happiness. They had faced challenges, proven themselves, and found a new beginning. The town continued to speak of Mia and Brutus. Stories of the girl who tamed the impossible dog spread far and wide. Children learned from her example, understanding that patience, kindness, and courage could change lives. Adults respected her for her bravery and humility. And Mia, once a homeless girl, had found her place in the world, surrounded by love, friendship, and hope. Mia and Brutus spent their days exploring the town, helping other animals and enjoying each other's company. They faced new challenges together, but nothing could break their bond. The mansion, the garden, and the streets became symbols of courage, patience, and transformation. Everyone who saw them could feel the love and trust between them. Brutus, once a fierce and fearful dog, had become gentle, loyal, and brave. Mia, once alone and struggling, had become confident, kind, and full of purpose. Together they showed the world that even the smallest acts of kindness could create the greatest changes. One quiet evening, Mia and Brutus sat in the garden, watching the stars appear in the night sky. Mia held his paw gently and whispered, "We did it, big guy. We found each other and we changed the world in our own way." Brutus leaned into her hand, calm and happy. The journey that began with fear and uncertainty had ended in trust, friendship, and a new beginning. Mia had learned that courage is not measured by strength or wealth, but by the heart. Brutus had learned that trust can bring safety, love, and joy. Together, they had transformed not only themselves but the lives of everyone around them. Their story became a legend in the town, a tale of hope, patience, and the power of kindness. As the night settled over the town, Mia and Brutus rested in the garden, peaceful and content. The mansion, the streets, and the hearts of the townspeople had been changed forever. Mia had found her purpose. Brutus had found trust, and together, they had discovered the greatest reward of all: love, friendship, and a new beginning.